Hello booktubers! Today I'm here to talk to you about Across the Universe. This book is a YA sci-fi dystopian thriller. And I picked it up because it was highly recommended by Sanna over at Books and Quills. She listed and talked about this book in so many videos I can't even count, but I will link her review down below. Across the Universe tells the story of a spaceship named Godspeed that is gonna travel 300 years through space on a mission to inhabit a new planet. The book is narrated by two protagonists, Amy and Elder. They each have intercalated chapters from their point of view. Amy is a 17-year-old redhead girl from Earth who chooses to be frozen with her scientist parents in order to be transported to this new world. Her parents, as scientists, will obviously help build this new planet, and she is just there because she is their daughter. In the beginning she is very conflicted whether or not she wants to leave Earth. She has a whole life, she's in love with a guy, and we go through this process with Amy choosing to leave everything she knows aside and remain frozen for 300 years to be in a new place she doesn't know anything about. Anything can happen. And then on the other hand we have Elder. Elder is a 16-year-old boy who is part of the living crew of the ship. This crew over the years has become monoetic, so they all look pretty much the same. Dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. Very different indeed from Amy. Elder, however, is special. Not only does he think differently from everyone else aboard the ship, he is also destined to be their leader. The ship has developed a system in place where the oldest person becomes kind of like their ruler in a sort of dictatorship, and Elder is destined and is being trained to become the next one. These two characters and their stories come together 250 years into the voyage of the Godspeed when Amy is suddenly defrozen in what seems to be an attempt to kill the entire frozen population. Amy now has to live for 50 years aboard this ship without ever seeing her parents again, and has to deal not only with the fact that she is completely different from everyone else, but also someone there is trying to murder her and possibly her frozen parents. This book has a lot of elements to it. It follows in the YA category, so we have a lot of teenage issues in play, but it's also a dystopian sci-fi with a very strong world building. As this is the first book on a trilogy, the author Beth takes her time in revealing bits and pieces of what this ship has become and what this universe is all about. I really enjoyed that. I hate when dystopian novels take a break just to explain what the world is about and what are the rules and what's the situation. I think it breaks the flow of the narrative and sounds really forced. So I very much prefer the alternative, what Beth actually did, which is a very slow puzzle solving bits and pieces that you put together to form a bigger picture. Me being this big a fan of dystopian and sci-fi fiction, I have to admit I was a little bit let down by this book. I don't know if it was because I trust Sanna's opinion so much and I usually enjoy every book she likes, and I went into this thinking I will love it, but I left it feeling a little bit unimpressed. I definitely felt the story was very predictable and the characters weren't fully developed. Although the world building, as I said, is great, I felt like from the very first chapter I could predict exactly what was going to happen. Who the big villain was, what would happen to each character, who'd survive, who'd die, and then the weirdest thing happened. Because I'm so used to reading and watching sci-fi, I thought my ideas were very predictable and there was no way they were gonna use that. There was no way they would play that card, it would be too obvious. So when Beth Revis actually did play those cards, I was a little bit shocked, but in the worst possible way. And I also felt the characters could be a little bit more well developed. They're not shallow, they have some depth to them, but I wish I could feel it more. I'm hoping the next book explores this character building a little bit better, because I felt like, especially in the beginning, Elder was very infantile. He was very slow to catch up on things. You had to explain every single thing to him. And Amy also bugs me a little bit in the beginning, but for a different reason. At first, because they have to intercalate each chapters, between the time Amy is frozen and the time she's woken up, All her chapters are about her frozen nightmares and frozen dreams and frozen perceptions. And at first I thought those chapters were very original. They seemed really nice, they were well written, they played a little bit with the format of the chapter, they sounded like a very slow frozen slumber, so that was really nice, but it was a lot. Whenever Elder's chapters were starting to pick up and have a flow, it was broken by a chapter by Amy with pretty much the same thing happening over and over again. So the first time was nice, the second time was okay, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the seventh were all a bit much of the same. They seem more like an obligation to intercalate each chapter. As a whole, I must say I enjoyed this book. It was a very easy read, it was fun, but it wasn't my favorite. Especially because I'm not very into thrillers, the whole who did it type thing, and this has a very big aspect of that, so that part I didn't enjoy. But I am hopeful for the next two books, especially because at the end of the first, this whole who did it mystery is solved. So I think in the next book we can move on to proper things. So because I'm very curious to see where the story is gonna go and where the characters will end up, I will continue reading the series. Overall, it was just okay. It wasn't very surprising, it wasn't the best type of book ever, but it was a good read. And I recommend it, especially if you're not very into sci-fi. I think it's a very easy sci-fi read to get started. So yeah, I see you all in the next video. Bye!